All right, welcome everyone to another episode of After the Close. It is December, and with me here is a Mr. Chris Polek. Chris, how are you today?
I'm doing great tonight, Mike. How are you?
Good, good, thanks. I can't believe it's already the holidays.
Unbelievable. This year has seemed to go so quickly that it's already December. Christmas is going to be in a couple of weeks, and we're on our way into a new year. So time races by.
Indeed, it does. Indeed, it does. So please tell everybody what you do, a little bit about yourself. Like I bring in my friends and colleagues and whatnot. I know, but go ahead, please.
Sure. Yeah, my name is Chris Pollock, and professionally, I'm the CEO of my company, Polek and Pollock. It's a family business, and actually, next year we're turning 50 years old, believe it or not.
Wow.
And yeah, and what we do is we're a wholesale distributor of parts and supplies for copiers and printers. So if you're in an office, the company that sold you that equipment and services equipment, there's probably a good chance that one of our products are sitting in that machine that you use every day.
Wow. Okay. So you're almost 50 years old. Have you always been doing that? I mean, were you guys the first in on the copier industry in the 70s?
Kind of in this part, I mean, the copiers have been around for a while. It was actually started by my father,
Mm.
and he was in the copier business at that point, and he kind of he noticed that with all the dealers that he worked with across the country, that they were paying exorbitantly high prices for parts at the time, and he figured
See.
he could find a way to offer the quality parts at a lower cost for them. And how he decided to make the jump into this business is my father was divorced at the time, and the company that he worked for was based in New York City, and they decided that they were going to move to Miami, Florida, was where they were going to move the headquarters.
Okay.
And since we were living in New Jersey, he did not want to move away from us. So he said he could not make the move, and he decided to set up shop and start his own business. So he started out of his own home as a one-person army to start off.
I did not see that coming as a story, but it is very on brand for a dad's podcast. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Um,
So I was 10 years old when he made the jump into that. So I'm kind of dating myself to where I'm heading into next year with us turning 50. So
well, that's okay.
yeah.
Everybody is always ashamed of how old they're actually getting versus how they feel at heart.
Well, the years just keep going by as they are. So, you can't stop time. But there's
Yeah, for
there's
sure.
no hiding age when you yeah, don't have any more hair on top.
Yeah, I do. I've been hanging in there the best I can. I can say that. I'm actually kind of more and more proud every year that it's still there.
That's
But
good. You
I,
still you still have the opportunity that you can wear a mohawk. I missed that opportunity a long time ago.
well, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
No.
But but that is true. If there were ever a mohawk growing contest, I guess I would win that one between you and
Yeah.
I.
Yep.
You were saying that your father started the business when you were around 10. So now as for some context, we know each other through like a collegiate relationship. We're in a alumni fraternity together. We were the same undergraduate. So now, were you always going to be going into that from a young age? So did you go to like say college with the intention of coming back home? Were you gonna like George Bailey it kind of, or go to college, come back, run the old savings and loan?
Yeah, I kind of did. At that point, when you're 10 years old and my father had written me a letter. I was away at summer camp when he told me he was starting this business
Okay.
and that he was going to name it Pollock and Pollock. And when you hear your own name on a company name, it really sounds kind of cool. You
Who's the
know,
other Pollock? Is it you and your father, your
oh,
your uncle?
well, that's an interesting story. And, we have a letter that he actually wrote my grandparents about that because
Okay.
he said what he wanted to do was originally he said that he wanted to name it after his father himself and for the sons. I also have a brother who's not involved in the business,
Mhm.
but he wanted to do that so that it would be Pollock, Pollock, and Pollock. but
Polek.
he said in the letter that the advertiser said, "Nah, that name's too cumbersome. It isn't right." So he just it was just shortened to Polek and Polek. So yeah, he said that he liked that, but that's kind of the story behind that. It's interesting you ask. It's a favorite thing. I get that story when people say, "How did it become that name?" Because there is a story behind it, and we actually have it memorialized in a letter to my grandparents how that all came about.
Is the letter like hung up in the office? That'd be pretty sweet.
Yeah, no, I've got it saved away at that point, but we do have it. We did take it electronically and put it out there because
Got it. Yeah.
yeah,
It's nice.
it was that important. I just didn't want to have it hanging somewhere, so I've got it tucked away in a special place.
Gotcha. Gotcha. I'm a sucker for that sort of keepsake stuff. So
Mhm.
since I'm a recurring theme here is just like home ownership, the mortgage market, things of that nature. So a lot of people know I'm about 2 years into living in my home, and this is a legitimate home, but the value is that I got my own office
Mhm.
versus our old apartment. I have my own little office, and I can put all my little tchotchkes and my keepsakes and stuff up that I've collected because my wife is anything but a hoarder. So I have all the little things like I'm mentioning, like that we got our logo up here, and then this is when I was on the floor of the New York Mercantile Exchange, and this is like
Mhm.
this like doesn't exist anymore. This is like trading places with Eddie Murphy.
Yeah.
And then around which you can't see, I have all sorts of other little things. Like I have fraternity paraphernalia, I have all sorts of stuff. So I'm big into that. Like I would recommend, I'm not telling you what to do, but maybe you get that letter, you hang it up in the office, it'll be.
Yeah. Well, we do have color copiers now, so I can make a copy of it,
And it's a marketing tool at that point. You use the color
but I think the
copy.
original is going to be out there. But yes, we have had that out there electronically, so I'll have to send it to you so you read the whole story.
Sure, sure.
Yeah,
I would like that. I have
yeah,
all sorts of that kind of stuff too.
yeah. It's actually on a typewriter, so even some mistakes on the typing. So even typewriters aren't used anymore that
But that,
much.
but that like that's a classy like typewriter font. Yeah, like that's a very like that really makes it feel like an heirloom when you do it
Yes.
that way.
Hmm.
So again, like we kind of know each other through college and whatnot, and I know you're the treasurer of our alumni fraternity organization.
Hmm.
Are you the CFO end at your actual job as well? Like, or is it too small? Are you a man of many hats? How does that?
No, we're smaller. I mean, but that's really not so much my expertise, even though I do that with our group. But I've got an operations manager that handles all that type of stuff. So
Gotcha, gotcha.
I'm more in helping out with assisting the operations and more with the sales team on growing the business.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And you have someone in line next to take over? Is like the next generation going to kick in soon, or what's going
Yeah,
on there?
not quite yet. I have two daughters,
Okay.
and my oldest is actually in her second year of college, and
Okay.
she's studying psychology. So they haven't really expressed any interest in working in the business just yet. And my youngest is a junior in high school, and
Okay.
she just got her driver's license last month. So
Oh, that must be nerve wracking.
there's a little bit of nerve wracking, but she's doing okay. It's
Good for
the
her.
second one that I've had go through it. So I think the first time round was a little more difficult. This time you're a little bit more used to it. So
I guess
things
that
are going smoothly so far.
I guess that's true. My girls are much too young to be at that stage, but as I hear the stories of people with girls who are older than me, I just get more and more scared.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
you're telling me
I'll tell you
about
one thing.
driving. I've heard people talk about like what middle school is like and the social online bullying and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I wish they would stay in kindergarten forever.
The time will go quickly. I I would say the best piece of advice that I could get is hold off as long as possible until you let them have a cell phone.
Oh yeah, that's We're not there yet.
I wouldn't be surprised that they'll be asking for it already.
It's as soon as one of them gets it, then it's going to spread like wildfire in her class. I'll bet. Like there's going to be like the one like mean girl Regina George kid who gets like a cell phone for Christmas and starts flaunting it in January. And then I'm going to have to hear about it for the next 11 and a half months until next Christmas.
Yes, and I always used to hear from one of my saying complaining that, oh, I have the oldest cell phone out of everybody. I have to get them. My friend has the newest one. I have the oldest one. Their parents were going to get them. And I said, really? So why don't you call their parents on the phone? Get them on the phone right now. Let's figure that out.
That's a good move.
So they will test you on it, but I would suggest that try pulling up saying like, well, let's get their parents on the phone. Let's really get this whole cell phone situation understood, and they may back off a little bit.
That's a good move. I'm gonna have to remember that one for when the time comes.
You'll find out what the real truth is.
Yes, for sure. I was all boys growing up. Like all through growing up, I was all boys. I did the sports. I got to college. I was in an all boys dorm. I was in a fraternity. Like girls between the ages of 0 to my wife's age.
Mhm.
I just don't have the most attuned understanding of them sometimes. And as they're getting a little bit older and becoming more like their own personalities, it's starting to become more evident that I have to like really pay attention to what needs to go on around here.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I mean, I can tell you that well, my mom had remarried, and I have a sister, although there's about a 12-year difference from us. So even though exactly how you say, with me being 12 years, it was, really not the dynamic of, growing up with sisters in the house or anything like that. It was, I was so far ahead. And right now, I have my wife, 2 daughters, so I've got three women living in the house here, and I pretty much sometimes still feel like that I probably know less about women than maybe you do. So,
well, I mean, that's probably just because you've been doing it longer, and I'm just ignorant to most things.
Yeah. So my point is that I think I learned that you'll probably never get it completely figured out. So don't worry if you don't.
All right. Well, that makes me feel a little better. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
You guys, I mean, when I say you guys, I guess I mean you girls. You were coming up on Christmas. Are you dealing with any of the empty nest stuff yet? Because we're in the Santa's coming phase. We have Elf on the Shelf. We have advent calendars with chocolate in it. We have a reindeer calendar where you move a candy cane, and we have like all of that stuff. It is like the atomic clock to nuclear war. We have everything being clocked. We know exactly the time it is to Christmas in our house. Your girls are older. Are you doing anything traditional like that or anything?
We have the house decorated and everything. Once Thanksgiving came around, we got the tree out, and the day after that whole weekend, we did all the decorating inside and outside. But yeah, they've gotten past the Santa thing is over. We did the Elf on the Shelf when they were growing up and everything, and that was just great. I mean, we had such a great time doing that. When you talk about the Elf on the Shelf, that always used to be the Thanksgiving holiday. We would go away for Thanksgiving, just for the day. We'd be down at my brother-in-law's for Thanksgiving usually. So when we left, either we'd be staying over that night or coming home, and we would put the elf on the mantelpiece of the fireplace, just there that day. And what was always great was waiting until the next morning to see which kid noticed the elf on there first.
That's what I wait for.
As soon as they knew it, that was the signal that, Christmas time had started. So it's like, all right, now it's time to start getting a tree and decorating and everything. So that was that was kind of the starting gun for Christmas for us every year.
That's a good one. For us, so we're a little bit different. We synced everything, and so December 1st, the elf shows up because that's corresponds to the advent calendars and everything. So it's
Yep.
all kind of kicks off on the same day.
That's
And
a good schedule.
I'm the responsible for where the elf ends up each day. That's the last thing I do before I go to bed. And I do look forward every morning. I'm like, when are they going to find out? Like, how long is it going to take them to notice it? What are they going to think of it? Because I'll do pretty simple stuff. I'm not getting like new outfits and stuff, but I always like put them in like some like kind of zany position, we'll say, you know. So that's where I usually get a little bit of joy out of doing it every night.
Yeah, we kind of started out with that where it was just simple, or move it in different places, like is like always hear about.
Mhm.
And then as my oldest daughter found out is that that there wasn't Santa Claus, and that the elf wasn't real.
Sure.
She kind of got involved in where we wanted to place the elf, and that's where things started to get a little bit more elaborate. And my wife really took on that job as far as putting together some real crazy stuff.
Got
And
it.
and we even started using it even though the kids were older. This is going back 3 years ago during COVID. We had the elf out.
Oh, okay.
And there's one where we had the elf in quarantine. So my wife had her in a box with the mask on the elf's face and everything. So
that's good. That's smart.
funny.
That's smart. Did you guys do did you do like big Christmas lights? Were you like outdoor decoration people?
I have some outdoors, but I don't do anything elaborate.
Okay.
Like you say, just some simple stuff. But yeah, I don't go crazy for that.
That idea for me is relatively new. So prior to living in my actual home now, I was in an apartment in the city for years and years. So it was never a thing. So just this will be our third Christmas. And I said to myself, okay, each year I'll try to make it a little better. Like I'm not gonna go crazy, but each year I'll try to make it a little better. So the first year we had one of those like blow up snowmen that somebody had given us, and I just stuck that out on the lawn.
Oh.
We went out to dinner one day and it was stormy, and then it like blew away. Like it ended up on a neighbor's lawn.
Yep.
So we eventually got it back, but that didn't go over so well year one. Year two, last year, I put up a few strands of lights, and I realized what a pain in the butt it can be if you're not properly prepared, and I made some notes. So this was my year. This was going to be my year where I was all ready to go. I had like a drawing of my house last year, like December 28th last year. I had a drawing of my house. I decided where the lights would go. I labeled everything. I was like all ready to go. Next year, I bought a big wreath that lights up to put at the big top of the house. I was all ready to go. So I put the whole thing together, and I do all the things like I thought of. I check all the lights, make sure they're working, the whole shebang, and then I go like Clark Griswold to put the lights on, and the middle of the long strand of lights goes out. So my house looks just entirely gap-toothed. It's just the dead center of the house goes out. And it's one giant strand of that section. So I have to replace the whole thing. So I ended up being like a week behind on everyone putting up their lights in the neighborhood. So then we looked like kind of like the Grinches for 3 or 4 days until I could get a chance to replace the strand of lights. I was so annoyed. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. But it is a nice time of year. It's great once everybody has a bunch of lights outside just to go driving around, and that's that's a fun event.
We'll do that for sure. Yeah. Is your neighbor? You're in where approximately do you actually reside? Are you? You're in Jersey?
Yeah, I live in New Jersey. I live in a town called West Caldwell, so we're pretty close. We're very suburban. Close to New York City.
But you live in an actual suburban area, not like an apartment.
Right.
So are there good neighborhood lights to go see? Is there like one house that everyone knows that does it crazy?
Oh yeah, there's a number of them around. You know where they are, and we even have friends of ours a couple of towns over that they do something pretty elaborate. He works on doing his house probably starts October 1st because there's so many stuff to put together, and then he lights it up on Thanksgiving. So he gets people coming by visiting every night.
That's nice. I mean, when I was say 23, I didn't get it. I mean, why would I? But now, like, we're settled in, and even I'm starting to become that guy who's like, oh, every year it'll do a little bit better. I could see myself being like Clark Griswold when I'm 46, like trying to get all the lights on in the house. I could see that.
Yep.
I evolve into that guy. So now, one of the other things I wanted to mention, I know that you're doing some LinkedIn video posts. I'm
Mhm.
following you. I think you're doing a great job. It's very motivational. Like
Oh,
you're
good.
giving
Thank
sort
you.
of
I'm glad
some.
you like them.
No, I do. I do. I definitely. I've been watching them more and more. It's part of the reason I wanted you to come on and talk. What drove you to start posting on LinkedIn something that's not directly work related?
Well, how that came about, the way I got started on that was actually, it was during the pandemic, because
Mhm.
you knew everything had been shut down. Uh, Business was quite slow. And I think it was probably about, maybe 6 months in. It was maybe into the fall, like late September and October. And I thought maybe I could come up with a weekly message. Uh, before we had the pandemic and you were working in your office, I used to have my office phone. And if you called in and you got your voicemail, I would put a message on every day of just that this is what day it is. And if today's your birthday, you share your birthday with this person.
So,
So I thought
okay.
maybe if I could take that voicemail, just do it as a once a week message. I would find out whose birthday was shared on that date and see if I could tie it to a business lesson or some type of thing that could help my customers out, or anybody else out there. Uh,
Sure.
just
Why not? Right.
kind of base it off my experience of what I've been doing since I've been with Polek and Polek in my business. I've been working there for 35 years now. So I figured with some of the things that I could match of what that person did, that there was probably a business connection in it some way. So that's how the whole idea came about. And with after people commenting it, or when I got to see them in person, they said how much they like doing them. I just said, well, I'll just keep doing them until people say they don't like them anymore.
Why not? Right.
Yeah,
Can't hurt. You
no.
know, and the metric. Sometimes it's quality over quantity. I mean,
Hmm.
your LinkedIn posts got you a guest spot on a podcast. How about that?
There you go.
Yeah, because I'll get every once in a while like, what are you doing? Why why? And I kind of the best answer I can kind of give is it scratches an itch.
Hmm.
Like I find it, and it's a little bit about the pandemic as well because suddenly um effective video communication suddenly became a very high priority,
Hmm.
and I think it got normalized too. So to practice this and be better at this, I think is a skill set in white collar work that is going to persist. You know, like
Yeah.
like when you compare like my video window as it is right now versus what it would have been in like April of 2020, it would have been like a scratchy kind of like, oh, like where the like, bad looking stuff.
Yeah.
That helps a lot. And I've had a lot of good like video interviews for jobs, which I know
Hmm.
that like just being able to present yourself virtually much more professionally is really like a good skill to have these days. So that's
Yep.
part of like why I've been doing this. Another big piece of it is just it's fun. I like talking to people for an hour. People I don't get to talk to otherwise. It's a good time.
Yeah, that's good. No, and it's a good point. I think with anything that you practice with, you become a little bit more comfortable, or you learn or pick up some things as far as doing video. And I think video is kind of a game changer as a communication tool. As
Oh,
I
one hundred percent.
think people get so bombarded with messages in their daily life and their work life, so you need to do some things different to stand out. You can't do things like say like, oh, I'll just send another email or something 100 times and hope that somebody's going to get back with you. And I think with the pandemic too, most people started working with their cell phones, and you had those messages. So I found I was able to get in contact with a lot of people, or if I was trying to reach out to a special message with someone, that I could just shoot a quick 20 or 30-second video message on my phone that was personal for them and text it to them, and that they could look at it. That's something different you're getting than just seeing a text message come through or an email come through. People will open that up and check it out, what you have to say.
Right. I agree. I like a piece of, or how do I phrase it? An unforeseen consequence of us moving down to the Charlotte area from the New York area is that I have to speak virtually. Like, the only way I can see people. Like, I don't see my parents nearly as often. I have to video chat with them. Like, that's something like that. You good?
Missed what you said.
All right, no problem. You back? So anything?
I'm back.
Okay.
Maybe it was my internet.
Oh, that's okay. It's okay. And like, I'll just be able to edit that little glitch out. No one will ever see it. Don't worry. What I was saying is, like, I only have to video chat with my parents, for example, which is a new thing that I have to contend with. And I understand we made the decision to move, but all these new interactions of video chatting, I think the pandemic made a bit more normalized. And like, another example, and it goes like how we would know each other. I don't get to go to like the fraternity alumni board meetings anymore, which I was
Right.
I was kind of a deadbeat regular at those things for several years. And I can't go to that, so I have to like hope, maybe I'll dial in. But so those are sort of the video cases that have like been cropping up in my life over the last 2.5 years, that being really comfortable with this stuff is becoming more important.
Yeah. And I think even in business, it's been real helpful as well. I mean, people talk about Zoom fatigue, having these big meetings and everything, and I get that too. They can get a little crazy. Mm-hmm. However, what I've learned also is that in the past, you used to go and see people in person for meetings, and
Sure.
they would take up a lot of time. There's expenses that you have. It's more time consuming, and I found people are a lot more open to that. You can meet with them virtually. It's a better connection, and you may only have to schedule 15 minutes, and that's very easy for them to fit in their time. Whereas if you went in person, they may have to schedule a whole hour to be with you. Yeah. And there's less so now they can actually have meetings where you can meet virtually face to face, and you can still be very productive and get as many things done. It's not an interruption to your day.
Yes, absolutely. A lot of those efficiencies are undeniable at this point. I think you had a lot of like pre-pandemic. I think you had some like old school people who want to like, see you in person, shake your hand, look you in the eye, that sort of thing, which, there's value to that as well, for sure. But in terms of just pragmatism, it's just like we were going to talk for 8 minutes. we can just do this over.
Yes.
We don't need to like hop in the car and drive and go and meet and sit in the waiting room and do whatever. I agree with you. And most people, I think it's hard to find someone who won't acknowledge that.
Yes. Yeah. I think it's when you're able to meet face to face with someone who's in a very close distance to you, I think that's worth taking advantage of. And what I find the best type of things having meetings with in person is when you have more networking events where you have a whole group of people that may be within your business and many potential customers or people that you work with there that you can mingle with them. Yeah, I find that those are really the best personal events to be at, in the post-pandemic world.
Gotcha. Yeah. I agree. 100%. 100%. And you're alluding to just the in-person meetings. I get, sales calls and that sort of thing. I mean, have you been able to leverage that, like Zoom calls and stuff, into better revenue generation anyway, or is it more just like cost reduction, you think?
Oh, I think it's it can be a little bit of both. I think that I think we've been able to generate new revenue from it too, just because people feel that you're a little bit more respectful of their time, that you
Sure.
can that you'll come prepared and you can do something in a quick video meeting and keep it to the time schedule that you agreed upon.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I agree with that as well. Yeah, it's not maybe not the initial sale or the volume, but it's just like the respect and customer relationship.
Yeah, yeah. People are, people are very busy. They're even, with even after the pandemic, a lot of people are working with fewer resources and things. So the amount of time they have is very valuable. It's actually the most important, most valuable thing to us is our time. We
Right.
all have the same amount. It's finite. So, uh, when you're going to ask someone to schedule out time for it, you need to make sure that you're trading value for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Yeah, you're talking about time, and we were mentioning the pandemic as a big changing catalyst, but the biggest catalyst that I've been contending with, like in my professional career, has been like interest rate hikes, which have been impacting banking and financial services.
Mhm.
And now I know very acutely what these jacked up interest rates have done to like banking profitability and like trading profitability because of sort of what I do. I have a less easy time imagining how something like this impacts someone like you. Have you
Well,
seen problems either with colleagues or in your own operations because of these interest rate hikes that have happened over the last year?
yeah, yeah, definitely. It's if you use a credit line or you
Mhm.
borrow money, it's more expensive to carry that line. So before people, just still would go along spending like nothing happened, and it took a little bit of time to realize that, hey, if we're using this money, it's costing a lot more. So now people are being very, uh, you know, I wouldn't say frugal, but they're being very discerning about what type of expenses they need to use borrowed money for. That
Hmm.
it's going to, and I have one of our clients. They're a pretty large company, but they built a lot of their business through acquisitions over these past decade. And when I was meeting with him recently, he mentioned that they're still looking to grow their business to a certain level, but right now he said they're looking at how much they can do it organically as opposed to acquisitions because it's just so much more expensive now to do things through that route, growing your business as opposed to doing it organically.
I see. I see.
Versus how less expensive it was going back in the previous years, because
Right.
interest rates were, you know, easily half of what they are today.
That's true. That's true. So, like, one of the common points on that is like people who bought a house like in 2021 really lucked out. They had a 3% mortgage, and now it's like a 7.5% mortgage, or
Mhm.
whatever it might be at the exact moment. For like businesses though, like small businesses, I don't know like how free. I mean, obviously it varies greatly on what type of business you are. I understand
Mhm.
that, but like, I don't really get a good sense of how frequently a new loan comes up in certain businesses. You know what I mean? Like how often, like maybe is it something that affected you like immediately, or was it like after 3 to 6, 9, 12 months, you suddenly did have a need for it? And you're like, oh, well, this is like totally different. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
it depends on what's going on in your business. For instance, we had to kind of unexpectedly at the end of this year, we had to invest in you know a, a lot of programming for this software that we have in existence because we use it to connect with another software with our customers to you know help them order our
Mhm.
product through us. And
Right.
unbeknownst to us, during late in the year, the other company explained that they were discontinuing that current version that they had,
Mhm.
and they had to move everybody over. So they had been in the process of doing that, but they kind of held us to the end of the line on it.
Got it. Mhm.
And we kind of had to have it up and running by you know the the end of the first quarter of 2024. So all of a sudden we're like, all right, well, we've got to do this expense. And when we got together to get the quotes on it of how much it was going to do, the cost was way more than we thought it was ever going to be out of our budget. So that was an example. We had to borrow the money for that project. We couldn't take
Oh,
it
okay.
out
There you go.
of our
Okay.
regular things. So seeing at the interest rate that they were putting it at, it's like, oh, that's a lot more expensive than it was a couple of years. But that was a that was an expense that we had to have. If we didn't have that, we couldn't run our business with it, and it was more expensive. So uh, for capital expenses that you need to grow your business, or you're going to get, uh, it's going to give you an advantage down the road.
Mhm.
Uh, if the interest rates are high on it, you got to go for it. But if they're kind of expenses that are just nice to have versus ones that you have to have, uh, those expenses are going to start to get put off.
Got it.
So that's going to be a little bit drag on the economy, and even just with the companies that I deal with every day, I think in every type of aspect of running your business, everybody's realized over the past 2 years that your costs have gone up, not just in one particular thing, everything, every nook and cranny of your business. So if you haven't done things like raise prices for your services or your products, or found ways to reduce cost in your business,
Mhm.
you're gonna be feeling it. And I've probably seen more people in this past year, when they work with us, they're looking to work with us more because they're looking for more ways that they can reduce costs in their business, because so many areas have gone up. They need to offset it because the revenues aren't growing fast enough to cover that.
Couldn't have said it better myself, Chris.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I agree with that whole thing. I'm I was like listening intently, almost like I was sitting in like a class, because it's great to hear somebody just lay it out like so pragmatically. You're neither academic book nor like CEO of Fortune 50 company who deals with things at an entirely different level. You're speaking of it just as a family business, pragmatic, responsible owner. And so to hear your like off the cuff thought process actually is very insightful. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Let's move to a lighter note because I almost kind of want to have like almost a debate or like blow off steam about this point. So I want to talk about the bankruptcy of the FMA.
Oh, okay.
I know I kind of didn't tell you that
Yeah.
I was going to talk about this, but I just kind of wanted to like just blow off steam about it. Let's talk. I'll explain to everyone what we're talking about here. So we were in the our college fraternity's alumni association, and you're the treasurer for it. And as part of that, we had a fund. We had an account with money in it that were from donations from the other alumni, annual dues, etc. And we have that money, and we were using it for one of two purposes. Mainly, we're using it to help provide things to the college students that they needed for their fraternity house, and we used it to sponsor events for ourselves. We've had it for years. How long have we had that money?
Oh gosh. I mean, it goes back to when I was a student that we worked with the FMA, and I think that they had probably been in existence since the late 70s, I want to say.
Okay. So now we, as students in college, or then as alumni, we trusted our money to an organization called FMA, the Fraternity Management Association. And it was a little hut of a building just on the outskirts of campus. So to come to find out, what was this, 2012, 2013?
Yeah. Yeah.
That entire operation was a Ponzi scheme, essentially. They were cooking the books for years and years, and they basically stole all of the money from not just us, but from all of their other fraternity alumni clients. Do you remember what the total was?
Yeah. Pardon me?
Do you remember, have any idea what the total amount was? I'm trying to remember.
Oh, I don't know. I don't
Okay.
know. It was, well, I think what happened is that, you think about the Bernie Madoff scheme of what happened. So I
This
guess
is exactly what happened to us.
I guess this was going on without anyone's knowledge. And at the time when I was a student there was 33 fraternities, I want to say. And there was probably still a fair amount at the time. I don't know the number. But what happened at that time was that there were a lot of it wasn't just for our alumni funds, which they did.
No, they didn't steal just from us. They stole from like 25, 30.
But it was the actual fraternities themselves. They had the accounts for everything that they managed, for their food, supplies in the house, electrical bills, everything, insurance payments that they had to pay. They kind of took care of all of that, and the funds were there. They would pay the bills for them.
Parents
but I
were
think
paying
around that time,
their children's expenses to this organization.
Yes. And then I think what happened was they had they had another outside service, which was kind of by the national fraternities. It wasn't just ours; it was all of these fraternities, where they were a little more with the times, and a lot more things were electronic, and they would manage your money a little bit better. It was the same thing that that they would just take care of paying your bills, and a lot of the national organizations promoted them. So they had at that time that people were leaving. They said you could either stay with the FMA or you could go with this other organization, and they probably had half the fraternities go with that other organization. So I guess when you talk about running a Ponzi scheme, it was kind of like with Bernie Madoff. Once people started withdrawing their money, all of a sudden you can't keep it going anymore.
And, right. That's so on point. It's basically Bernie Madoff scheme that we were victims of, except at a collegiate level. It's wild, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And so they eventually kind of get caught because they run out of money.
Yes.
To bake their withdrawals, and then the whole thing falls apart. And then to be blunt, like that one of them was going to go to jail, and the other one kind of like committed suicide. It was a sad ending.
Yep.
Like, so you were involved with it because you were the treasurer of the alumni association, and it was your accounts, or was you were the representative for the accounts.
Right, but the account was held with them there. So when the whole thing went bankrupt, we didn't have the most amount of money out of everybody on there. We had roughly $30,000 in there. There were some organizations that had over 100.
Sure,
and it was just gone.
Ooh, so God. All that was taken.
And I think the thing we learned from that is that, you just got to start over at that point. I don't think that anything has still, 10 years later, I don't think anything's really been resolved or anybody has clawed back any type of money from that thing. And I think the thing that you learned too is that bad things happen. Now, what do? You just got to, dig in and start over again on your own from scratch, and that's what we did.
True. Yeah, but I mean that was one of the more wild financial experiences I had ever been a part of.
Yeah,
in large part because I was the treasurer of the fraternity when I was actually in the college.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to interact with that organization once a week, sometimes 2-3 times a week. I would stop by to deposit things, withdraw things, drop off receipts, whatever, to manage the house accounts of the fraternity. So I was getting duped like every day for like an entire year. Just like this organization was actually just stealing the monies that we had to run our house. It was wild.
Just like you would have had no idea.
No idea. The thing that actually, I guess, so the university did not take blame for it, and I understand legally why they didn't. But for a long time, I had argued that they should have. They should have just done all the organizations a solid and paid us the money out of our $1 billion endowment. But they chose not to do that. Do you harbor any resentment to the university for that move? Because like the government will backstop stuff. Like, why doesn't the university backstop like 35 of their collegiate organizations?
Yeah. No, I'd say it was a little bit disappointing. And I know at one time, originally the university kind of came up with that organization, and then
Right.
the FMA had to go independent on their own. So yes, I understand that, and they probably that was probably the legal advice that they got from that. And
Mhm.
yeah, I think it would have been I think it would have been helpful to see something or some type of support from them. I mean, from our side, on the alumni side, as I already explained my thoughts on it, it's like this happened. Figure out a plan and what you do. What I felt a little bit more sorry for were the student organizations that had those of that they had a lot more to go through, and I'm sure their parents were unhappy because it was part of the expenses that
Oh yeah.
they give. And fortunately at that point with our fraternity, uh they were the ones for their organization that decided they were going to go with this other organization, so they did not get affected by it. But as the
Sure.
alumni, we did, because we had discussed it and made the decision of that, it's convenience. This has been working for all these years. Why change? And if we always decide to make a change, we can do that. But, none of us ever saw this as a possibility of what was coming.
It made like the news, the new real, like,
Yeah.
Philadelphia news and stuff. It was a big scandal for a while.
Hmm.
And it's just so bizarre that we were so close to it. Like that sounds like something that
Yeah.
it sounds like we should have been interviewed for the local news on something like that.
Yeah.
It still annoys me though to this day that the university didn't help make everybody whole. On the other hand, it was a good lesson. Like I was really young when it happened, so I am much
Hmm.
much more cognizant of my actual expenses and like statements and things like that. Like, you know, much less likely I think to get scammed now from stuff like
Hmm.
that, because I'm not just going to give money to something that I, kind of just don't know about.
Yeah.
So I guess that is like the silver lining of it. But it was a wild time when that happened, of legitimate bankruptcy and murder suicide, not murder, no, just a suicide.
Yeah. Yeah. And you do bring up a point of having to check with, fraud being more prevalent. You just don't think about it, but it just goes to show you how important it is to be checking things like your online bank statements or credit card bills and be looking for stuff that doesn't look right.
Yeah, no, I agree. It only takes, it's like fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
A lot of those little things that you don't see coming actually end up being great like life lessons when you're in like that college realm, which
Hmm.
is like so we're starting to close in on time, but like one of the other things I was actually interested in asking you about on that vein is you've been such a part of the alumni association for so long. What like got you, why do you keep coming back to the well? Like what is it about the whole thing that gets you coming back to the fraternity well? You're, you know, what class were you?
I graduated in 1986.
You graduated in 86. You graduated college before I was born. Um,
There you
Not to
go.
make you feel any older, but
Just
you
I
gra-
was gonna say, just when we were talking about feeling old, it's like, well,
right, right.
there's a scenario that hits
Right, but
home,
so
right?
you graduated college before I was born, yet you're still going back there. What like
Yeah.
what and I am too. I like this is I go back there as much as I can for events. I was, but what is it that drives you back, like get you go back going to the well?
Oh, well, I think the number one thing is from it of even going back, it's practically 40 years. It'll be 40 years in a couple of years. It's 38 since I graduated. And I'm sure just like you, uh the the brothers that I grew up with there are lifelong friends.
Right.
They're people that I still see and keep in touch with to this day. Uh, so I see them frequently, and that's what keeps me coming back, is because we keep in communication with each other. And I think even now too, with more ways through social media, and whether it's Facebook or just keeping in contact with giving people a cell phone call once in a while, or whenever I'm traveling through, I look to see fraternity brothers that are in that area and find a way to get together with them. So that's part of the reason it keeps me. I think it's a lot easier to do now.
I think so too. I agree. It was a real weighing factor that I wouldn't get to like go back as frequently when I was going to leave the area. Like it wasn't the deciding factor, but it was on the list.
Yeah.
I'm a little further away now. It's a little harder to get involved with those activities, organizations, because it's nice to go back once, twice, 3 times a year to just chill for a morning, afternoon, night, whatever.
Yep. Yeah, and it was great this year because as you know, we moved into a new house and we went back for Lehigh Lafayette weekend and we probably had one of the biggest turnouts we've had in years. So
really, that's great. Like this is the first year.
It was just really exciting to see how many people were there and how many people had such a great time, and some people that I hadn't seen in a while and other people that I see every year were there. So it was great to see a mix of all those people.
Yeah, this was the first year I missed. I've been going since 2006 to the Lehigh Lafayette game, and this was the very first year I missed because I have a lot of bombs that I have to, or like mines that I have to avoid. So the big homecoming game, this is what we're referring to, the big homecoming game that we go back to every year. It's in November, so it's always the weekend before Thanksgiving. But I have Thanksgiving, my wife's birthday, and my daughter's birthday are all like right around there. So it's very hard to say, hey, honey, I'm going to go get drunk and watch football for 2 days, like with my college buddies. You guys just sing happy birthday to yourselves. It's a little trickier to get that done these days.
You got to get permission a year in advance. And now that you told me earlier that we were talking that you're expecting your son in the spring. So now you've got 3 kids. Now you've kind of crossed the line where you're outnumbered kids to parent. That's
for sure.
I've only had the 2 to 2s. So that's something I've never experienced. But I got that. That's a whole new world. Now you're outnumbered.
That's true. Yeah, we had to move to zone defense, and we're gonna figure that one out together. I don't know. I'm ready for a boy. Like I know boys. Like I can deal with a boy. The girls were the hard transition for me. My wife, on the other hand, she has no idea what to do with a boy. She's asking me already all these weird questions that it's just like, what do you think this is? It's not an alien. It's not like, she's asking about all sorts of different, like, we'll call it liquids. About how a lot of questions about how liquids function in boys. So we'll leave it there.
Well, you'll be able to get plenty of time with your son eventually, because one thing I will tell you is when my daughters got older, they were looking to do things with their mom, or they were all going to go out and go shopping or do something that all the girls would do. So they'd be off on their own and I'd be left behind. So you guys will get your one-on-one time for sure.
Well, that's good. I'm looking forward to it. Having a boy is going to be a blast. So, Chris, I think we're starting to come up on time for me. So I want to thank you for being here this month. It was a pleasure talking with you. This is dropping December 15th. It'll be the 15th when everyone's listening to it. Do you have any last parting words or anything you want to say before we sign off?
Oh, well, I just say it was fun catching up with you, Mike. Great conversation. And since people see it on December 15th, I will wish everyone a Merry Christmas. All
right. So we will see everybody next month. Have a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year. I'm trying to get another live one of these going. I'm trying to find somebody in like the Charlotte area who will do it. I have a couple names. I have a couple maybes. So we'll see. Hopefully it'll be somebody good. So see everybody.